introduced to like cocaine at 15. I was like, yeah, that's great. That gets rid of all of my problems. Yeah, there was times that I'd woken up in hospital once after a big bender, and I thought I was in like a BBC show that was like a hospital mockumentary about hospital staff who were like taking photos of women in the x-ray booths and putting bad hip replacements into old women to save money. And so that took me to some quite dark places. Recovery is the cornerstone of my life. Everything I put before it, I will lose. So this has to come first. And everything that comes afterwards is only from the grace of God, really.
Hello and welcome to 12 Steps and 12 Questions. My name is Silvio and I'm an addict. This pod is full of personal and inspirational stories of recovery from addiction. And in every episode I'll ask each guest the same 12 questions about their life, addiction and recovery. Quick warning, there will be some graphic descriptions and a healthy amount of swearing. For this episode, please welcome Alex.
Hello and welcome, Alex, to this very first episode of 12 Steps and 12 Questions. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Silvio. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for coming around. I'm so pleased that you've made time and are supporting me with my new venture. Would you like to introduce yourself very quickly? What's your name? How old are you?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name's Alex. I'm 29 for a very upsettingly short amount of time left of my 20s. And I've been sober for 20 months.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, cheers.
Let's start with the questions.
Okay.
I have 12 sets of questions, or 12 questions rather, which I'm going to ask everybody who's going to come after you. And so the first question is, did you have any adverse childhood experiences?
I would say that I did. I think it's on balance, I want to say that everyone has these things, but I'm not sure if that's true. I think, everyone has an experience of saying, oh, that shit thing happened to me. And, kind of that's maybe kind of why I am the way that I am. But no, I did have some adverse childhood experiences. My mum is an alcoholic, and she unfortunately is still drinking. So her alcoholism kind of appears in the form of lots and lots of crying, wondering why people aren't helping her, when her behaviour is just to get drunk and shout at you, and then pass out and vomit all over herself, and then someone's got to clean it up. And you do that enough times, people start to go, well, why should I try and pick up the pieces for you when I can see you're making no effort to pick them up yourself? So my dad left her, and then I stayed with her. So I had to kind of pick up after her and be her, well, I guess be her husband, be her carer, be her, well, I wasn't really her son. I was just like a guy that shared the house with her. So that, I suppose, is my main kind of adverse experience. And of course, like the little things like getting left by my dad, didn't take me. But I'd say that was, I suppose, the core thing I think of in my childhood.
How old were you when this became really relevant to you?
I suppose I can remember my mum. I remember my mum and dad fighting a lot when, I suppose, from 9. So my mum would go into the garden so that she could just chain smoke out there. And my dad, he worked at the hospital, so he would get home late and he'd come home to find my mum out there. And, they would just be screaming at each other. And I'd wake up and remember that. And then a couple of years after, he left her and I needed to then do more. So, yeah.
That didn't leave you a lot of space for just being a kid or a teenager?
Not really, no. I mean, I don't really know what it is. I mean, I had very good times as a teenager, I had a really good group of friends that I'm still very close to, 16 years on now. Most of us have moved and we all live in London now. And we were able to have lots of parties at my house because it was in the middle of the countryside. And of course, my mum wasn't too opposed to us drinking a lot and smoking and vomiting all over the garden. So I mean, we had a lot of fun. It was nice. But if I saw someone now with a slightly more pronounced age that I have, I would look at that person and the way that they're letting their teenager behave, and I'd go, you are absolutely out of control. They need some boundaries. But when we're teenagers, I mean, I felt like a grown-up. So I was like, yeah, I'm allowed to do all these grown-up things and these mature things, but really, But it was, I suppose those were some teenage experiences.
Do you think that because you were looking after things almost as an adult, that you were entitled to behave a bit like that?
Oh, I totally was. I remember even thinking I shouldn't have to be able to do my homework. I would tell teachers that, and there was this one teacher who I didn't really like, who kept asking me where this like English like assignment was, and I was like, "Do you know what's going on for me at home?" And she just went, "Yes, which is why I've already given you a 2-month extension, and but you can't expect things to just be put off forever. You have to do something. You have to hand it in." And I definitely used it as my reason to think, well, you've not gone. If you went through what I went through, you'd drink and you'd do drugs and blah blah blah. But yeah, how
did it affect you? I mean, your mother behaving outside the norm somewhat, and you feeling that or not just feeling, you having to pick up after her and looking after your mother, parenting your own parent.
How did it feel? Or how does it feel? It feels, I suppose at the time and now, in terms of an emotion, I don't really know what there is there, because I would feel angry, sad, abandoned, hopeless, but really it is just entirely unfair. And I think other people don't have to go through this. Why do I have to go through this? I was a child, so I wasn't responsible for kind of what was happening to me really. But, my dad did offer to kind of take me to go and live with him. So, and I said no, because I thought I saw my mum like in bits, clearly very unwell, and I couldn't understand how anybody could leave somebody in that state when you supposedly love them or have made a commitment to them. And I thought it's unfair on her that she's being left. I didn't understand, that she needs to take responsibility for herself. And so I thought, I'll do it. But that didn't help her much, and it certainly didn't help me. So I just felt the whole thing was exceptionally unfair, and that I deserved more, because I did deserve more. But I think I then tried to take maybe what I had taken from. I had tried to take back something. I don't know what it was, but that was taken from me in childhood. I just tried to get back fun or some power or some experience, because home was so shit that I was like, well, introduced to like cocaine at 15. I was like, yeah, that's great. That gets rid of all of my problems. I still struggle with the feelings of kind of being growing up in that house. But I feel a lot better than I have done in many, many years. And it's just a process of, feelings will come up. I know that they won't break me. I know that I don't need to drink over them or do drugs over them or look for some kind of validation through whatever it is, like, sex or kind of like social media posts or something. I just kind of have faith that things will work out now. If I just probably put my feet up and am kind and gentle with myself.
So you said you were introduced to cocaine at 15. So it's the next question. What did the moment you first got hooked, or the fun times, what did that look like?
Gosh. I think the first thing I really liked, I liked booze. Drinking in parks with my friends at like 14, 15. And then, I did find that very fun. Although I would always be the first person to like vomit and pass out. And then I would have a nap for 2 hours and I'd resurrect. And then found weed, like 15. And then coke came afterwards. And I don't think I actually really I didn't really feel that cocaine was this amazing high, or I felt this kind of like, I felt the effects of it, sure, but I didn't feel like it was this, wow, I want to feel like this for the rest of my life. I just felt like it was quite glamorous and, like I was a kid, so I felt like it was just like the, rich bitches in New York, like at glamorous parties, when actually I was being picked up in some kind of old, like, Rover car by a man who, looking back on it, I'm like, that was grooming, because he was like 32 and we were 15. It was me and my friend. It was a friend's family friend who did end up like having my friend ended up having a sexual relationship with this person, and just kind of this guy used to ask my mate to bring all of his friends around, and we would just like do coke in his car, drive between different cities in the countryside at like 3:00 in the morning on a Thursday. I got school the next day, and I just was more excited to actually not be in my house. But I think the time that I properly started enjoying drugs was, I think, sometime after I moved to London. I'd always been drinking. I'd always liked drinking a bit too much. But with drugs, I think it was when I was offered crystal meth when was it? It was such a stupid idea. I'd gone on a night out and I'd done MDMA with my friend, and we got home and I couldn't sleep. And it was in 2020 and it was on the leap day. So it was the 29th of February. And somebody offered, over a kind of a popular gay dating app, somebody said, hey, would you like to come over and do G&T? And I was like, I love gin and tonics. But it turns out it was a crystal meth and GHB. And the person was really, really fit. So I thought, well, I see the potential of like getting to spend time with a beautiful person, new drug, but I'm already a little bit fucked up, so I don't really care about doing that. And also, it's the 29th of February. It's a free day. Why would I not? And I went and I did that, and that was the drug where I felt like all of my feelings that I'd ever felt of being kind of not attractive enough, not good enough, not loved enough, that kind of horrible, I suppose, just feeling of being a person that's not 100% perfect was gone. And that's where I properly committed to looking at this drug to fix all of my problems.
How did that progress?
So when I was at this guy's house, I was there for 24 hours, which is, I think, the longest time I'd ever done to like consistently taking drugs. And of course I was just, it's a very horny drug. So it was just like a lot of sex for that whole time as well. I'd never experienced anything like that. And then from there, I kind of realized what I'd done, and I confessed to my housemates, who are also my friends, that I'd gone and done this drug. And I thought, and I said, I'm telling you this because I never want to do it again, because that's one of the bad ones. That's the Breaking Bad drug. That's the, one that's up there with like heroin and fentanyl, where it's like, you just don't do that one. And I think I was able to not do it for probably like 2 months or like 3 months or something. But I wasn't able to get the feeling of like how good the experience was at what I thought at the time. Like how strong the high was, the fact that because the drug is so strong, that the people that are doing it, a lot of them, like very, very beautiful people, don't really care who's around. And so you'll be in these like quite odd, like, sex parties, because all I think at the core of it, all I really wanted was to kind of like feel loved and like desirable. And you'd be at these kind of rooms full of like maybe like like up to 10 people. I know that sometimes there are these, again, inverted commas, chill outs, where it's like 15, 20 people just in like some kind of hotel room or someone's house in London. It's just going on any time, where people are doing crystal meth and GHB. But I couldn't stop thinking about the feeling of that, the being desired, and actually how much fun I had. So I think I then went on to being a bit of a weekend warrior with it. And I tried to make a point of not buying my own stuff, because people are very generous when they're fucked off their faces. And it's actually quite cheap and lasts quite a while, relative to something like cocaine. But by the end of that year, like I got to November, I was having like full weeks buying it myself, and then kind of like started to have a couple of psychotic breaks. So I'd say about like 10 months from the first time trying it to wanting to do it all day, every day.
It's a really powerful combination, of course, sex and drugs.
And rock and roll.
And rock and roll. And for all those maybe who are not sort of familiar with that scene that you were part of at that time, what's that look like? I mean, how do you communicate with each other? How do you know which place to go to and who brings what and so on?
I think,
how would this sort of come about? What would that look like?
Yeah, so I think it's not so much, in my experience, it wasn't so much organized. And I think I didn't really find that, there definitely is a scene, but I don't know whether I would definitely partook, and I was there for a bit, but I don't know whether I was like a member of, if there was a club, I don't know if I was in it. Normally what would happen would be, if you go on to like a gay dating app, well, for gay men or men who have sex with men, you will find that it doesn't show you like a stack of people like it does on Tinder or Hinge or something, where you say this person generally lives close to you. Like if you live in London, they might be on the other side of London, and you can say yes or no to them. That these dating apps will show you how far away the next person is by the foot, and whether they're online or not. And if say, for example, you go on it at 2:00 in the morning on a Wednesday, the people that are online, they're either, they're woken up to go to the bathroom, or they are up and they're partying and they're looking for a bit of company, because you don't want to be by yourself doing that, because it gives you such a strong urge to do stuff with other people.
Sexually.
Yeah, sexually. And, there's only so much porn you can watch until you get bored and you want to do it yourself. So it would kind of be one person says, hey, do you want to come over? And then you end up both like looking on these apps, looking for somewhere else. And, or one person will say, I have a free place, come to me. And before you know it, what started off as kind of a solo venture, you've got 8 people around you. And you're like, oh, it's a bit crowded in here. Because often it's just like a room with a single bed with like lino flooring and porn playing on an iPad mini in the corner at a very low volume, because you're afraid that other people are gonna, the neighboring flats are gonna hear. It's not very. It's looking at it from the outside. It's probably, well, I know that it probably looks quite sad and upsetting and distressing.
Less glamorous than one would hope.
Absolutely less glamorous, but that's.
Chemsex played some part in my story as well, albeit in a relationship with someone. And I know about how big an influence it can have on wanting to feel loved and wanting to be desired and losing inhibitions and not really caring. That, because it was within a relationship, didn't take me to a very dark place. I mean, the drugs did, but not the chemsex part of it. Would you say the same for you, or did the chemsex aspect of it become something that had its own momentum?
I think it became, the sex I was having, I was fine kind of, a lot of people that do crystal meth, they have issues with having sex without the drugs at all. And I was lucky, and that wasn't my problem. I was quite happy to have, sober sex or drunk sex or whatever. My experience of sex wasn't entirely it wasn't entirely dependent on crystal meth. A little bit of it was. And coming into recovery, I've had to kind of unpick the, fantasy or eroticism of those like chemsex parties from what's actually kind of what I want to have as like a healthy relationship towards sex.
If you're enjoying this podcast and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe.
The drugs got dark because I was up for such a long time that your brain just starts to lose grip on reality. You know, by the end, I'd be 12 hours in and I'd go for a shower. You have to shower a lot with meth because it makes like oily stuff come out of your skin. So you're just constantly scrubbing in the shower, like really, really have to scrub. Otherwise you just look like you got a constant sheen all over your face. And I would turn the shower on and I would hear the shower hit the bottom of the bath basin. And I would always think that the shower was singing a Celine Dion song to me. One that she'd never actually recorded or released, but I heard the voice of Celine Dion in the shower. And so that took me to some quite dark places. For example, if I'd be in a room with some other people, or it wouldn't even be some other people, it would be one other person. And I think for every hour, their identity would change to me. They'd have a different name. They would be from a different place. You know,
while they're still the same person.
Why they're still the same person. And then I'd start talking to them like they're entirely different. And they'd go kind of like, who are you talking about? And I'm like, you. Like, you, Diego. My name's Josh. No, Josh left 2 hours ago. It's like, no, he's me.
Was this you tripping? Or was this part of you really losing a sense of reality?
I lost a sense of reality. It's not like acid where you kind of, everything you're seeing, you believe at the time, but you know it's from drugs. It truly is a loss of a grip on reality. Like I truly lost my mind at the end. I think that was one of the only things that scared me enough, even though I thought I didn't care about anything in my life. You know, I didn't really have much gratitude for what I had. But, you know, when people say, oh, like, be thankful for your health, and you're never grateful unless, you know, you get a cold or, you know, you're feeling like run down and you're lying in bed
when it's taken away.
When it's taken away. And so losing my mind, or literally my grip on reality, not being able to, you know, there was times that I'd woken up in hospital once after a big bender, and I thought I was in like a BBC show that was like a hospital mockumentary about hospital staff who were like taking photos of women in the X-ray booths and putting bad hip replacements into old women to save money. And I thought I was in the show that I'd already seen, so I knew the plot. It's truly nonsensical. So I would run around scaring people and like shouting at doctors. And normally I'm quite mild-mannered, but that was, it's terrifying for other people as well as me.
And it's a perfect segue for question number 3, which is, what were your worst consequences? And finally, your rock bottom.
Oh, yeah. My worst consequences, I'm actually quite fortunate in that I didn't have many consequences in terms of my life. I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my friends. I didn't lose my job, although I quit it. Nothing happened. It was all internal for me. I was very lucky in that my friends asked my dad for help with me. And
what prompted them to do so?
Well, that psychotic episode, that put me in hospital. I put myself there because I thought a child was trapped in a boot of a car, and I tried to get the child out. Of course, it's all in my head. The owner of the car comes out and is like, why are you attacking my car? And I called the police on him for child trafficking, and of course they took me to hospital. And so,
were you sober when this was happening?
Absolutely not. No, I'd been
in the middle of it.
I'd been up for 6 days. 6 days.
6 whole days?
Yeah, that was quite normal. And in terms of the drug taking, like to party all night and then to scrub stuff off me and then to try and just fumble through a work day.
In a nutshell, talk me through those 6 days. What does that look like? So it's when you get started on a Thursday because you're a bit bored and you're thinking the weekend is coming, that sort of thing?
When was it? Well, this was following my birthday. So went on a night out with my friends, drinking, and then came home. The Sunday, I told everyone I had a date, so I actually just went to some guy's house to used with him. It was time for me to leave because his place was disgusting. Like no bed sheets, rubbish everywhere. This whole place smelled of cat piss. I know, it's horrible. I got there and I was like, you need to give me something right now because I don't know if I'll be able to like stomach being in here unless I'm absolutely off my tits. So left him. On the way home, I stopped at someone else's, all finding them through kind of different apps, like Live at the time. Smoked so much in his room that set off the fire alarms for the whole kind of like hotel that he was in. It's very embarrassing. Yeah. And then tried to pretend I'd get through the work day, tried to go to sleep, couldn't quite go to sleep.
Well, so you not slept, but you still managed to get to work the next morning and get through a work day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think a lot of the time it would be, working from home or, in the office, but, just doing kind of little admin tasks. There'd be a couple of hours in the day where I actually felt fine. But, from day 4 or 5 onwards, it just gets, the grip on reality starts to go like, I would be unable to read something through that I'd written and be able to tell whether it was, coherent English. I wouldn't be able to string sentences together really. It was kind of, I just completely powerless.
Did that scare you?
At the time, it scared me when it wasn't happening. When it was happening, I was just so preoccupied with coming down because it's powerful. So you'd lose the high, but then you would be up probably for another 12 hours. And so in that time of starting to like where I couldn't really sleep, I never quite cracked things like sleeping pills. I never got them because I never really planned. I would just start, thinking, okay, I'm going to go to bed tonight. And then it would get to the evening and I wouldn't be able to sleep. And then I'm just trying to think about how to feel better. And then I would just go out again and start it all over again because at least I'm not feeling like shit. So that was the cycle of that.
So you'd go through the workday, but you wouldn't be smoking in that time during the work day.
In the day?
Yeah.
I would kind of maybe like 4 or 5 days in, I maybe would have like a little, 2 puffs at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon to like wake me up. But I could sit there and smoke consistently probably for like an hour and a half or 2 hours and then go, okay, I'm high enough now. But of course you just get overamped and like very shaky, cold fingers, like sweating profusely, which mixes with like the oily stuff coming out of the skin. Is disgusting. And by the end, like smoking wasn't really doing it for me. And
it doesn't sound fun.
No, it's not. I had great fun at the beginning, but in the end, it wasn't like I could have like a couple of puffs and go, oh, that's fun. Or I feel a little bit up now. Or do you want to have sex? It would be like, I need to get absolutely off my face. And then just kind of being a bit, like drooling, like hanging out with people. It's not fantastic.
Mm. Which brings us back to your rock bottom and what brought you into the room.
Rock bottoms, I think I had 2. It's funny, a lot of people were telling me for a long time that I had a problem with alcohol. And because my drinking didn't look like my mum, I thought, don't be silly, I'm perfectly fine. I wasn't behaving badly or anything. I just was drinking a lot and going out and choosing drink over doing something, good for myself or, missing like lunches and stuff. It was kind of minimal stuff. But I, with crystal meth, I thought at the end of 2020, I thought some people were trying to break into my house. So I, all delusion, drug-induced psychosis. And I called my friends and I told them that I was scared that this was happening to me. So I kind of had publicly outed myself. And they were all very concerned. And then that at the time was my rock bottom because it was so publicly humiliating. and I decided that, it's not worth, nothing is worth that experience. I felt so horrible that I would just not do drugs, or I wouldn't drink. And
So you called your friends while you were high?
I texted them saying, I think someone's trying to break in. And then they called me and they seen that I was awake. And they're like, how long have you been awake for? And they were like, I think you just need to go to bed. And they had a word with me. One friend wrote me a very long letter saying I will not be friends with someone that does crystal meth. And I was like, well, yeah, that's pretty fair. And so I decided I wouldn't. And I did lots of exercise. I tried to stay clean by doing lots of exercise, by trying to do lots of coffee dates with friends. Luckily, I had a very close friend who was trying to be sober. Not an addict, but just realised that drinking didn't agree with her, so she just stopped. Someone suggested I go to like a 12-step meeting, like AA or something, and I turned up a couple of times. I thought, oh, this is crap. And I'm like, it's just a bunch of people complaining, and you want me to turn up and complain about why I'm a crap person for an hour, and apparently that's going to help me stay sober. That's what I thought it was. And so I didn't want to do that. I then, after 8 or 9 months of sobriety, like just white knuckling it, just like, gritting my teeth and bearing it, I then got signed off from work with depression because I felt like no ability to feel joy.
Did you suffer a lot of obsession around this time? I mean, 8 months is a long time. I know from myself that I did an enormous amount of white knuckling because I always wanted to show that I was stronger and didn't want to come to the rooms at all.
No.
And so I did a lot of white knuckling for a long time, and the obsession would just grind me down.
Yeah, it would. It would kind of transfer onto different things. So at the start it'd be exercise, and then it would be on cooking, and then it would be on sex, and then it would be on something else. And none of these things made me feel better. Well, they did for a short time, but it wasn't sustainable. And so I think, of course, if I'm feeling terrible and I'm looking for all these different things to fix how I'm feeling, but they don't work, I'm not surprised I felt so bad that I needed to get signed off from work. And weirdly, taking the work away meant that I had nothing. I didn't want to fill my day with anything. And so that just made me feel worse. And then I got, and then I had a very dramatic moment, like overly dramatic moment, where I started like telling my friends that if I can't go on a night out, I'll kill myself. And so, because that's how I felt. I was like, if I can't go and experience some joy and be young and have fun, then I don't see what's the point, honestly. And I went on a night out, and it was perfectly boring. And
with friends?
Yeah, with friends.
Sober friends?
No, drinking friend. And so we went on a night out together, and it was a perfectly boring night out. Nothing really happened. But I'd started drinking again. So pretty soon after that, went down the A to LSD of drugs, and ended up back at meth and GHB. And after a year of, since the last time, where I'd publicly embarrassed myself with my friends, getting put into that situation that put me in hospital following my birthday, that was the moment where I truly had hit rock bottom, because I just had no idea what I was going to do. And I thought, I can't do this by myself. I don't got this. So I asked for help. And my friends called my dad, and he came to help me and managed to find me a treatment center where I was booked in for 2 weeks, and then they extended it to 28 days. But in there was kind of where it was encouraged that we go to 12-step meetings. So I won't publicize any particular one, but I went to a 12-step meeting, And I thought, I didn't like this before, but these people are sober, and a lot of them have been sober for a very long time, and I'm willing to do whatever they do. Just tell me what to do, where to go, and hopefully I can get what you get.
Mm. You sort of touched on it a little bit beforehand, and that's question 4, which I have for you and for everybody else. Did you ever want to die? Did you consider suicide at your worst time?
At my worst time?
Or at any other time for that matter?
Well, yeah, I think at my worst time, weirdly no, on my worst time, because I think up until I'd hit rock bottom, I did think I'd just want to die. I'd wanted to. I had several moments throughout my childhood, like when I was 15, where I thought, I don't see the point in any of this. I feel terrible. I meant to just genuinely thought my purpose in life, and to the end of my days, my purpose would be to look after and pick up after my mum, as some kind of punching bag stroke cleaner. And no, I definitely didn't want to live. And I think that's kind of why I drank and used so much, because I thought what's the consequence to me? What's the consequence of me drinking and using? It's, I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to go out and have fun. But when I lost my grip on reality, and when I started losing my mind, and I truly had something taken from me that I didn't even know I cared about, because it had never occurred to me to be grateful for the fact that I can think clearly. I think I'd felt fear for the first time, and in that fear was the fear of not living, and that it is possible to have less than you ever believe that you can have. And so I think I wanted to try, and I don't think I wanted to try. I'd not wanted to try in a long time, and so I was willing. But yeah, that's kind of how I came to it.
And question 5, and you've already touched on that a little bit, and perhaps you can expand just a little. What other methods did you try to get sober before finding the names?
I only tried once, and it was that stint of sobriety following my first psychotic break. All other times I thought everyone else had the problem, not me, or that I was fine because I wasn't on a park bench, or blah, 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 or looked like my mum, or blah, blah, blah. Focus on exercise, try and control my routine, made sure that I kind of had ticked lots of different boxes, that I was seeing friends enough, that I was doing some kind of hobby. So, I booked lots of different kind of music lessons, language lessons, I spent too much money on fancy gym classes. I'm spending more than I ever had on fancy gym classes now, but it's a nice thing that I can afford it, and I actually enjoy them now.
Well, these things are all good things in many ways. When you follow your interest and your talents, and you speak several languages, and you want to expand on that, looking after yourself, going to the gym, these are all good things. But they're
not the only thing.
No, and they were there to, as opposed to just enjoy them for what they are, they were there to distract you.
Exactly.
From your obsession of wanting to use.
Exactly. And I thought all of them would fix me, or that if I were focusing on them, I wouldn't be focusing on how I felt. It's just some kind of exercise in either denying how I feel, because I think one of the biggest things that I got when I came in, or when I was ready to ask for help, was just accepting where I'm at and how I feel. And even if I'm afraid, or even if I think I'm going to fuck it all up, or even if I think that I can't do it, just accepting those feelings as valid, and not trying to change them, and not trying to run away from them. Just being able to sit with them all and take a breath, and then be able to not run away from them, and just do the next right thing, or ask for help. That's the place that I think healing started for me, when I couldn't do that previously.
So you went to rehab, and you're in this rehab, and it was a 12-step rehab, or it was encouraged to attend 12-step meetings while you were there, which brings me to one of the biggest hurdles, I think, for many people who first come into the rooms and question 6, which is, did you struggle with the word God?
Yeah, I did, absolutely. I think, because you sent me the questions ahead of time, I had to think about this one. I think my instinct is to say no to this question, but really I had a lifelong dislike of the word God and organized religion, and I grew up an atheist. In my house, knowledge was king, facts were king, and you had to be able to prove or measure something. Like my dad's a scientist, and my mum's quite an argumentative and smart woman as well.
So you were taught faith in science.
Faith in science, faith in knowledge, and we don't need what those kind of woo-woo people need. They're all a bit pathetic, kind of superiority. That's kind of where we were. And that's how I behaved most of my life. I don't think I ever judged anyone. No, I don't think that's fair, actually. I think I did judge people if they were religious. I would say, the reason I think I didn't judge them is because I'd say, it's probably not their fault. It's probably their parents. They just grew up in that culture, and so they have it, and it's not their fault. It's just, if given the choice, they probably would say no.
Which is condescending at best.
Oh, it's exceptionally condescending. But, I think there's a line within belief systems, isn't it, where we all say, well, ultimately, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, like, if I think differently from you, I do think that you're wrong and I'm right. And I think there's a line there in, when is it acceptance? When is it just tolerance? It's like, I tolerate your point of view, but I'm not taking it on. But that's kind of how I felt my whole life about God. But
so you're in rehab, or you're coming to the rooms, and here's your step 3, and where we turn our will in our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. And when I first read that, I didn't come into the rooms at all, right? Because that kept me out. That kept me out for a very, very long time, years. And how did you then approach this when you wanted to be sober, you wanted to stop using?
I think before step 3, we have step 2. And before step 2, we've got step 1. So step 1 says, we admitted we were powerless over insert name of your favorite drug or drink here. We were powerless over this thing, and that our lives had become unmanageable. That's an experience. I truly experienced that I was powerless over any kind of drug or drink, and I knew my life had become unmanageable. I knew how that felt. I knew that I couldn't do anything to stop myself from doing drugs because I am a drug addict. So I will just go and do stuff. There's a promise in step 1, really, that says, with love, you're fucked. If you're an addict, living on your own will, trying to do it yourself, you're fucked.
Basically, yeah.
And if that is true, it leads on to step 2 to think, well, if I'm fucked, how do I unfuck myself? Well, I've got to be willing to entertain something. So when we come to step 2, where it says we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, I truly was at that place where I was, in my own words, I kind of was faced with a decision where I thought, can I drop my pride and entertain the idea that there might be something more powerful than me that I can't understand, that picks the sun up from behind the horizon in the morning and puts it back behind it at night, or that makes me feel good when I'm talking and laughing and having a good time with my friends, whatever that thing is that creates that feeling or causes those things to happen. If I can entertain for a moment that power might exist, not does exist, but might exist, and that it could help me. If I can drop my pride and investigate that, that would be one way to go. But the other way to go would be for me to return to trying to take imaginary children out of cars. And I would rather get laughed at. If the choice is psychosis or God, I pick God. And that was it. That was quite simple. I was ready to entertain it. And so
You were desperate enough to allow that.
Absolutely. And I proved, I don't know, because of my step one experience, I proved that I couldn't do it by myself. So why would I try again? Or why would I try to argue? I mean, I did argue. I argued a lot. I didn't want to accept something. I didn't want to accept what people with more clean time than me had to say, because I thought that I was, again, superior and I had all the answers. And I say, well, what about this? And can we argue about that? Or if you look at this word, it might mean two different things. And they just go, shut up. Listen to what I'm telling you. You know what I'm telling you. So just listen and do it. And I surrendered to the process, which helped massively. I had a lot more energy when I wasn't trying to fight everyone. But yeah.
And now that you've gone through the steps and you've been sober for a while, how would you describe your higher power? Can you put it into words? Do you care to put it into words?
I don't think I could say what it is. I can tell some things about it. I use the word God because I'm sneaky. And early on, I identified that if I'm using the word higher power, it's because I'm trying to keep one foot out. That is not the experience of a lot of people. They say higher power and they genuinely mean this big thing up in the sky. But I know that's me trying to not say, I'm not. I've grown up in a Christian country. That's the word I have. That's the word I know for the big, big good in the sky. It's the biggest concept I've got for this power. So I will use the word God. And I use it to show that I'm all in to myself.
I find that fascinating. By the way, you're right. A lot of people use the word higher power. I myself use the word universe and mystery sometimes because having the problem that I always want to understand everything, and this being something that I cannot understand but only experience, I call it mystery sometimes. For me, the word God is just assigned to something entirely different, to my mother's God, really. The dude with the laser beams in the sky, who takes things away, and that you should be afraid of, and who's not nice, who's nasty. And for me, it was really important to differentiate that and say, no, for this different concept, the one that I had, I shed one, the old one, so I'm okay to use a new word or different word for this new experience. And either are possible. I think either really interesting subjects. I mean, we're both linguists, so I suppose talking about words and how to reassign them is somewhat natural.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, there's people have thought about different ways to view gods, for as long as they've been able to put pen to paper, I think. I definitely, my first instinct is to view God as one of the kind of monotheistic faiths would. So I think when we talk about religion or spirituality, the first thing that comes to my head is that there's one. But that's not to say that, people who have an appreciation of, if you accept that there's your mother's God and then your conception of it, that there are multiple ones, that's wrong. That's not true. I think I'm lucky because I didn't have the experience you had. Well, I don't know whether I'm lucky, but my experience is different to yours. I didn't grow up with God being, this, that, or the other. I didn't have a concept of it. I didn't think it was real. I knew religion was real, and I thought people that followed religions were idiots. But then I suppose they end up laughing because I didn't have a kind of spiritual basis to live my life upon, and then I ended up Schitt's Creek and had to turn to them.
Perhaps the better question, rather than to say, how would you describe your higher power, is to say, how do you experience your higher power? How do you experience God?
I think I have constant contact. I feel it. It's a wave of calm that comes over me. Or it's being able to just look up. I live on the 9th floor of a building, and I'm very lucky that I get to be able to look out at this quite big, great, wide sky. And I know that I'm not in control, that something else is. It takes the pressure off me, and then I get that calm again. I know I think a thing that I've had in the last, I suppose, 6 months or so of my recovery is this true confidence that working the steps and working a program as it has been explained to me does work. And not a confidence in the sense of arrogance, thinking I'm fixed, I'm done. I know that I'm still ill. Like, I still have an addiction. And if I don't take certain steps daily to deal with it, then I'll go back because of the promise in step 1. But confidence in the true, like, well, I suppose like in the Latin sense of it, in that, like, it means to, confide or to trust, that I know that if I do the things that are suggested to me or that are part of my program, that good things will happen, or at least that I won't drink or take drugs. So I have actually forgotten the question you've asked me.
How do you experience God in your life? And you've answered that brilliant.
Yeah.
Apart from the very obvious thing, which is that
I remembered. So if I do these things, that, like, I'll have I have the confidence and the trust. And so I know that if I go and do certain things, like, pray, meditate, help other people, say yes to friends when they want to do a podcast about recovery, then I will be able to, stay sober another day. Very much in the same way that I know that there are things in my life that I'm too afraid to do, and I have been too afraid to do, like use my skills, because I'm afraid people will laugh at me for earnestly trying something that I care about. I don't want to be ridiculed about something I care about. It would be humiliating, and I don't want to be that vulnerable. So that often meant that I would not do anything. I'd sit at home and just kind of be angry at the world that I wasn't happy, or I wasn't getting what I wanted. Having difficult conversations with people, all these different things that I'd be afraid to do in my life. If I can sit down and I can try and connect with God, and I can ask for things like courage and, willingness, compassion, I get it, and it doesn't come from me. And so I can't explain it any other way, because it's it works. It truly works. So I can't. Yeah, that's my experience of it.
You've put it beautifully. Thank you. Going through the steps is the game changer, isn't it? Where we know this. It's talked about a lot in every meeting that we go to, is that you can go to as many meetings as you like. It's not going to keep you sober. What keeps you sober is that change within you, going through the steps, going through all the 12 steps. There's our 8th question. Which part of the steps were the most difficult for you?
Difficult. I think step 1 was the most difficult one for me. I think that was a place where I was very afraid, and I didn't quite know if I was unsure whether I was doing it right. I did a large written step 1 in my rehab, and I was very happy to write every single piece of paper they gave me, rewrite bits, put justifications in some places, remove it in others,
detailing how powerless you were.
Yeah, I mean, when I say kind of, I wrote it as well as I could the first time. They'd say, what were the consequences of this? What did you do? And here, I wrote it all down, and I didn't notice. It was pointed out to me that I put but, or at the same time, someone else said blah, blah, blah. I was always giving these justifications about why it wasn't my fault. And learning to take responsibility for my own actions was a big thing, but I didn't struggle with that. Someone just told me, and I went, yeah, okay, fine, I'll rewrite it. I was very happy to go and do all the things, but I didn't really know whether I was, I'm very good at being the best student in school, I will do everything that I will do everything that you ask of me, but I don't know whether it's because I want to get well or because I want to please you. And I struggled with that for a while. And, when I was able to actually think, I'm doing this for myself, that was a bit of a turning point. But it was very difficult for me to get, just because I'd not had to drop my pride or anything before. Following that, my best step, I think, was step 3. I had a very good and powerful experience connecting with my God. I didn't mind my step 4. I quite like writing about things that I like writing about all the things I hate. Feels good to hate sometimes. Not good for you, not good for me, but it does. People wouldn't hate unless it felt good to do it. But as addicts, we need to deal with our hatred or our resentments. And I was also fine to do a step 5 and talk to my sponsor about it, because I'm sometimes more on the open book side than on the closed. I used to trauma dump on people, where I would say, here are all the things that are wrong with me, and here's everything that's happened in my life. And they go, whoa, that's a lot. So that was fine. I think I struggled more with principles and action and routine. I struggled more with discipline and being able to do things on a regular basis. Even these days, I'm not fantastic with taking my inventory. I'm not, but I do it.
And that's a beautiful follow-on right there to question 9, which is, which character defects give you most trouble today?
What character defects give me most trouble? I am quite lucky in that I see on other people's step 10s that I get resentments quite often. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm pretty fine. Struggle a bit here and there when someone's annoying me, but it goes very quickly. What character defects do I deal with? I struggle with my ambition. My ambition wants me to focus more on work than it does on recovery, and I need to make sure that recovery is the cornerstone of my life. Everything I put before it, I will lose. So this has to come first, and everything that comes afterwards is only from the grace of God, really, and the people that have helped me. It's not me. So I struggle with my ambition. I think that's the main one.
Mm-hmm. Question 10. What is the best thing that recovery has given you?
The best thing, the single best thing.
Or the best things?
I tell you, it's for those that don't know, we read something at the end of our meetings that's called the promises. It talks about all the things that getting a life beyond your wildest dreams, or things that you never would have been able to conceive before coming to recovery. And early on, the things that we want are a day free from drinking drugs, not to be obsessing. And I forget that those are the most important things, because now the things that I'm most grateful for are things like the ability to not self-sabotage, to not have a bad day, that the ability to actually go through a bad day and say I'm like working towards a goal, like whether it's a fitness goal or it's some kind of financial goal or goal for my work, something that will require me to like go and do some physical exercise or make a healthy meal or do a task, write something. I would previously not want to do anything because I'd feel like crap, or I'd go, I feel shit. I'm gonna have a cheat meal, so I get a pizza, spend like 40 quid on like a Deliveroo for myself that would just make me feel like crap afterwards, or I wouldn't turn up to something, and then afterwards I'd go, well, now I feel crap because I felt crap yesterday, and I feel crap because I did that thing that was not working towards my long-term goal. And now, because we work discipline in the program, I'm able to have some discipline to go through just do these tasks. And it really is these are like small incremental little things that have led to some kind of massive changes in my life outside of, in my physical, outside of recovery life. It's
in the material world.
In the material, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, material. Instead of physical. But
massive
that
changes.
is
What kind of changes?
Being able to just do stuff even if I don't feel like doing it.
Freedom.
Like freedom. Like, it really is the thing that we shouldn't be talking about, or we try not to talk about in meetings, but I've got more money than I've ever had in my life. And not because like I've had I've been able to go and put myself in situations that I'd be afraid to do, and then just, do tasks that I didn't necessarily want to do. There were things I find interesting, but I wouldn't want to do them previously because I'd be afraid. And I'm making more money than I've ever made, and I think it's absolutely crazy. I look the best I've looked in, I think, ever. And
this is a podcast, so
I know. But
can I just, for the listener?
So I'm 7 foot tall, and I have a shoulder. No, I don't.
Can I just, to the listener? Can I just give you the thumbs up here? You're absolutely right. You've not looked this good in a very, very long time, surely.
Yeah, no, I've not. I'm kind of with my friends. I have enough self-worth to say, no, I don't want to do something. I'm not people-pleasing. I feel like my time is mine. I feel like I'm in control of my life. Well, I'm not in control of my life, but I feel like and I'm not in control of my life because, in step 3, when you give over your will, that's a permanent thing. I try and take it back quite often, but I can give it over again. But when I ask for stuff in my prayers or in my life, it's not up to me to say whether it will happen. It's just for me to express an interest and say, I would, like, please, help me work towards this goal. I will do as many right things as I can to make it happen and for other people. And if it happens, great, thank you. And if it doesn't, it's okay. I have a say. Because if it happens, I had a say. Can't take all the credit, but it'll go ahead. But if it doesn't, I'm not that mad. I'm not that bound to the outcome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Question 11. What would you say to a newcomer or someone wondering if they're an addict?
Well, someone wondering if they're an addict. The thing I want to say, and I think the thing I'm trained to say at meetings is, if you think you're an addict, you probably are. Everyone is welcome at all meetings. The only requirement for membership is a desire to, stay clean or to not pick up a drink or a drug. So go, if that is your true desire. But yeah, I think it was explained to me that if you believe that you are powerless over drink and drugs, and that you have this constant horrible feeling in you that you look to external sources to solve, and then when you are using those external things like drink, drugs, food, gambling, spending money, if that gets to the point where you're fucking yourself over and you've got quite big consequences, but also that once you start, you can't stop unless you're stopped, then yeah, you probably are an addict and you probably need to come along and have them, talk to the people at the meeting. But, no one can tell anyone if they're an addict or not. It's a personal experience. But yeah, that's how I felt. And what was the first part of the question? Sorry.
What would you say to a newcomer?
Or what would I say to a newcomer? You're most welcome. You're not alone. Recovery is possible if you put the action in. Some people, I think it's my favorite thing I've had in recovery. Some people want it. Some people need it, but the only ones that get recovery are the ones that do it. And if you can get out of your own way and give up all of your reasons to not do it. Like, oh, my meeting's on. I've had this with some sponsees who, at the start of working with them, I'll say, are you prepared to go to any lengths? And they'll say, yeah, I am. And I think in their head, they have this idea that when I say, oh, will you go to any lengths? They're imagining me saying, if I asked you to jump across a ravine or abseil dive down the side, these big things. They go,
that put you in physical danger.
Yeah. I'll do whatever. I'll scale Everest if it means I can be sober. A lot of the time, it's me saying, I want you to meet me at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday. And they go, oh no, I've got dinner. And I'm going, that's not any lengths. You've got to put recovery first. You've got to get out of your own way and stop thinking, or what can I get away with? I'm like, oh, I'll try it. Like, no, you have to say no to stuff in order to get recovery. You have to get into the habit of putting it first. As I've mentioned, everything that you put before your recovery, you will lose. I will lose. But also we have a laugh. We have a right laugh. So, life isn't going to get boring when you come in. I'll say I think I've been having the most fun in the last couple of months since I've relaxed a bit into this recent stint of sobriety. I'm having an absolute ball. I can't believe I ever went and did drugs and drank. I'm like, this is so much more fun. So much more fun. I don't feel like shit all the time. There's a thing you say that quite a lot that I quite like, that when we're drinking or taking drugs, you are like on a hamster wheel, like you're constantly either at the top of it or you're spinning back down to the bottom, but the goal is just to kind of be in the middle, and you're not there for very long and you're just constantly up and down. And here we live in the middle.
Yeah, it's the hamster wheel of addiction. You're either on your way up or you're on your way down, but you're always in that wheel and really always in a cage.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of the program and to the 12th and last question, which is, what do you want your higher power, God, to say to you at the pearly gates? You can take this question as seriously or as lightly as you like.
Honestly, I think I just want to say well done. You got there in the end.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just well done. You did your best.
Well done, Alex. You've done your best today. Thank you so much for coming around and for spending time with me and for letting me ask you these questions.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
It's a wonderful way of working a 12-step, I think, and I'm entirely grateful.
No, as am I to you. Thanks, Silvio.
Thank you, Alex.
We've come to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe. While this pod is based on the 12-step recovery program, it's not officially affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. 12 Steps and 12 Questions is not substance or behavior specific, it's fully self-supporting and not-for-profit. And this next bit, it's not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, and it neither endorses nor opposes any causes.